Let's be real, trying to predict the future of AI can feel like throwing a dart in the dark. But what if we could actually turn on the lights? What if we could swap out the pure guesswork for a real, numbers-driven framework? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today, a detailed model that tries to map out the entire road from here to superintelligence.
So yeah, this is the big one, right? The question on everyone's mind. But what's so powerful about this model is that it doesn't just pull a date out of a hat. Instead, it builds this whole system of interconnected factors, things we can actually track and update over time to give us a possible answer.
And this quote from the people who built the model just nails it. They're not sitting here telling us they've got a perfect crystal ball. Nope. The whole point of an exercise like this is to take all our quiet, hidden assumptions and put them out on the table so we can actually have a real conversation about what's driving this incredible progress.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why we should even try to model the future in the first place. Then, we're going to walk through the 3 huge stages the model lays out on the road to superintelligence. And finally, we'll get into the really important stuff, the limitations of the model, and what we should all take away from it.
So let's start with a big why. Why go through all the trouble of building a complicated model like this? Well, the short answer is one word: transparency. It's all about getting our assumptions out in the open.
You know, it's a difference between someone just saying, I feel like AGI is about 10 years away, and that person having to actually show their work. This forces us to ask, why do you think that? Is it compute? Is it algorithms? Money? This framework lays out all the moving parts so we can argue about the assumptions, not just the final prediction.
All right, let's get into the heart of this thing. The model doesn't just see the future as this one big singular event. Instead, it actually lays out a path with very specific, observable milestones we can all be watching out for.
So here they are, the key signposts on our journey. It all kicks off with something called an automated coder, or AC. From there, it moves up to a Superhuman AI Researcher, SAR for short. After that, things accelerate even more. But for our purposes, we're really going to focus on those first 2 big ones and the final destination, Artificial Superintelligence, or ASI.
Okay, stage 1. This is all about automating the absolute bedrock of AI development and really all of tech, writing code.
So the first monster milestone is this automated coder, the AC. And let's be super clear here, we are not talking about a slightly better version of GitHub Copilot. The model defines this as an AI that can completely replace the entire engineering team on an AGI project. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That is a gigantic leap from where we are today.
So how in the world do we get there? Well, the model breaks it down into 3 main ingredients. First, how big and complicated of a project can the AI handle on its own? We talking a simple script or a massive code base that takes years to build? Second, how much do the tools we have today speed things up? And third, the one we all know, the nonstop growth of raw computing power. So when the authors plug in their best estimates for all those different factors, the model spits out a pretty specific time frame, late 2030. Now, obviously, this is just a median prediction from one specific run of the model. But it's not just a guess, right? It's an actual output based on a totally transparent set of assumptions, and it gives us a concrete date to think about.
Okay, so we've got an AI that can automate the how, the actual coding. But that's really just the start. The next stage, and you could argue it's a much harder one, is automating the what. That is the creative spark of research itself. And this difference is just, it's everything. Automating coding is about executing a plan that a human came up with. But automating research taste, that's about coming up with the plan in the first place. It's the difference between a genius programmer who can build anything you ask and a visionary researcher who knows what's actually worth building.
And that idea leads us right to the next huge milestone, the Superhuman AI Researcher, or SAR. Just imagine an AI that doesn't just run the experiments we give it, it actually dreams them up. It figures out which ideas are brilliant and which are dead ends, and it learns from the results way faster and better than any human team ever could. This is the whole R&D process fully automated. So, how quickly does this stage happen? Well, it really hangs on 2 things. First, how big of a speed boost do you get from automating all the coding? And second, and this is the really interesting one, how good is the AI's research taste on day 1? If that first automated coder is not only a great engineer but also has some pretty solid research instincts, well then this stage could be over in a flash.
Okay, and this is where things go from science fiction to something else entirely. We've hit the final stage in the model, the intelligence explosion. This is the moment when the AI starts improving itself, and the feedback loop slams shut. So here's how that feedback loop works. The second you have a superhuman AI researcher, what's its first job? To design an even smarter AI. That new, smarter AI is now an even better researcher, which then designs an even smarter one after that. And on it goes. Each cycle gets faster and faster. This is what's known as recursive self-improvement, and it's the engine of the takeoff.
So what are we even talking about when we say superintelligence? The definition the model uses is kind of mind-bending. Think about the difference in skill between, say, the world's best surgeon and a brand new medical resident. Now imagine a new being whose skill level is twice that massive gap, but above the world's best surgeon. That's the level of ability we're talking about with ASI. It is a staggering leap.
So, the big reveal. When does the model predict we hit this point? The median estimate is July 2034. But honestly, the truly wild part isn't the date itself. It's the speed of that final jump. The model suggests we go from that first big milestone, the automated coder, in late 2030 to full-blown ASI just 4 years later. That's not a gentle curve, people. That is a vertical wall, a fast takeoff.
Okay, a date like 2034 is probably going to make some of you raise an eyebrow. So let's bring this back down to earth for a minute. This is a model, not a prophecy. And to really get what it's telling us, we have to look at the important things that it doesn't include.
The authors are super clear about two huge blind spots here. First, the model basically assumes we'll always have enough good data to train bigger and bigger models. If we hit a data wall, that could slow everything way down. But on the flip side, the model does not factor in AI designing its own computer chips. If an AI can automate hardware R&D, that could pour gasoline on this fire and make things happen way faster. And that creates this really fascinating push and pull on the timeline. A data bottleneck could stretch things out, maybe making the dates longer than the model predicts. But an AI that can improve its own physical brain, that can make the takeoff, whenever it starts, even more explosive and sudden than we can currently imagine.
Which leads us to the bottom line, right? If the forecast has these giant question marks, what's the point? Why should we even pay attention to a map that we know is incomplete?
Because the real value here isn't the specific date. It's not about circling July 2034 on your calendar. The value is the map itself. It lays out a plausible path. It makes this huge, abstract idea of an intelligence explosion feel like a real sequence of events that we can actually watch for. And it leaves us with what might be the most important question of our time. Now that we've seen one possible map, are we doing anywhere near enough to get ready for the destination?